So everybody, welcome back. This is a video that I wanted to do because there have been a few weeks ago now a very nice, very interesting race at the Nürburgring, featuring this platoon. Of course, like every GT season, we have a lot of this BMW M4 GT3 racing. This is one of the most winning car of all the time in that GT series. If you are also used to play video games also, then Assetto Corsa is featuring this car and is always a winning one. Is one of the best car to use to win. And this year they proposed a strange version, the M4 GT3, that was basically an M3 Touring GT3 that basically doesn't exist. Of course, the M4 GT3 it's a conversion from it's an idea type of car like the NASCAR vehicles are, so just inspired from the production series model, but it doesn't resemble basically anything of the production of the M4, the ordinary M4. It's basically another car, and this is the model of Nuno Platz, which I already made an explanation, a description of the quality of the kit in my channel. You can scroll down in my video and find it. I think I made it something like 1 year ago or 6 months ago, because the model is quite new. Nuno Platz is one of the few company producing item from the recent years, without going back in the 90s or in the 80s, with production cars and a racer that cannot be that interesting like this modern new one are. This is the body of this car, and as you can see, I already start to track some marks over, because my idea was to do something for the body of the racing M3 GT3 Touring. They call it adac 24 version. Of course, is a car that doesn't exist, and basically allergy here, and basically she was produced after a prank that BMW did the last year. I think it was a 1st of April prank, which they proposed this type of touring car. The touring car usually are, also I have a couple of them, and they are the most usable car, in my opinion, one of the best combination of cars that you can use in ordinary life, and that is the correct M3, the real M3 car. This is the GT3, but it's an M4. This is basically because BMW divided the categories between the coupe version, which back in time was the M3 coupe. Now they made another series completed that is named the M4, not to distinguish from the M3 that basically is the touring car or the four-door car. It's a little more sedan and a family-oriented vehicle, while the coupe, it's basically another completely series, And what I wanted to do, it was to reproduce this wonderful car that they made racing in this 2026 adac 24 edition of the Nürburgring 24 hours, the same one that was featuring also Max Verstappen racing in this car, which I took the decals from Fola, from Slot Fabrik. These are LB production decals, and there was a lot of interesting cars. Basically the most important were this AMG GT3, which to be properly done you needed to buy an update for the front end. This is a 3D printed front end and a rear back, plus the front different light, which is very different from the Tamiya standard front end, and it is a needing, to do that version that was the ordinary version races in the last few years. This is a car that probably have been even more than the BMW winning vehicle in GT racers, and then we had the racing with the Dacia Logan. Because Dacia Logan was a kind of allergy there, terrible allergy here. They're cutting grass, so worse than that, I don't know. And you can have the Dacia Logan, racing at the ring. It was nearly funny because it was really like a break in the middle of the road, but it was a fun history, and the Nürburgring race always had funny vehicles racing. I remember back in time the Manta with the little fox tail on the antenna, and it was extremely cool. And this year they proposed this Dacia Logan and this BMW. To build up this BMW, my idea was, instead of waiting the people, there was already some companies making slot car, you know. There is a terrible one, TA71 from Italy. My opinion is really negative, but not for what he did, basically for the fellow, you know, this fellow that is constantly bashing other people's work. Not directly my work, because I never had a discussion and an argument with him, but I see that everybody posting stuff about 3D get bad comments and bad criticals for this fellow, so I think his stuff is not at all at the level, and he already produced the kind of body from slot racing, as well as I know that also Diecast is the first company that made decal for this car, which I probably have to use if I will not be able to find the decal made from Slot Fabric. In my opinion, the Slot Fabric decal are nicer, better done than Diecast, but we will see. And they are all waiting for a 3D body printed, you know, to combine basically these two shapes. They look similar, you know, but they are extremely different. You know, this is the coupe and that is the touring. So my idea to create a body was indeed to modify, of course, the standard Nuno kit. This may be in the future, we will see about that, to be able maybe to produce trans kit, a resin kit conversion, you know, like the typical stuff that I used to do in resin, maybe of this body. That will be a kind of plug and play, not really plug and pray, over the Nuno kit. Despite the fact when you buy usually the bodies from Slot Racer, inside you don't have the parts that we are used to have for our ordinary models, you know, but they are optimized for the chassis of the Slot Racer. You know, first of all, the wheelbase is usually similar, but not exactly the one that we have in our 124 scale cars, you know. And so to do this, I basically try to keep in touch with the alpha model stuff, but you know, they promise me a lot of stuff, but sometimes seems to talk with the intelligence that simply tell you yes, 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 and then at the end doesn't arrive anything at all to me. So I give up, and I discovered that one of the most interesting news from Burago that was due to June 2026. So right now, in the moment I'm making this video, this is made now in the end of June. They produced this brand new M3 Touring. You see, is the street car, basically is that model, which as you can see, I already stripped it down, because my idea was basically to study how to adapt part of the body shell of this. This is die-cast model, you know, and you will find a surprise here, because I already cut the model, you know. There is that long scratch on the back, and basically what you have to use for this car is essentially the rooftop, the plastic part on the top, which have to be of course converted also, and probably had also the escape door over, that I think is in another position in the M3. And I don't know if they have the double line on the roof. This I still didn't study, because the ordinary car don't have it, but we can do it with no problems. Basically what you need from that model, and I was mentioning before Alpha Model because I was in touch with one of the guys from the staff of Alpha Model, in the way to have maybe a body of the racing kit they made back in time of the BMW of this car, you know, because until today that was the only model featuring the BMW M3, and the guy tried to look in the warehouse if they had a spare body or something defective with probably some molds, but he did not find it, so I had to find an alternative way to have my own body. And for me the best ever was to find quite cheap, you know, these are model that you can find on AliExpress or on eBay for 20 bucks, so it's really cheap stuff. And honestly, the shapes and the form and the overall shape of the model are really well done. You know that when we talk about this model of Burago, I have a series on my channel that is the Diecast review, and this is kind of Diecast review because I already stripped down the model, so there is not so much to say, despite that in my impression the model was really well done, really well engineered, you know. The really lack was about the assembly of the model, because this kit had the tires that were completely off, one was flipping apart, and the montage, all the assembly of the model was not completely convincing. You know, it was I think 9 to 10 for the quality of the overall shape, and 3 to 4 for the quality of the build up. But once again, you know, when I comment about this diecast model, when you pay stuff that is $20, including a box, including a showcase, including nearly everything, you know, you cannot expect so much. So I prefer to take one of this body and strip it down. It was also mysteriously strange why in this model they provided the opening front bonnet, the opening of the side doors, and as you can see, the trunk is already cut and prepared, but mysteriously it was completely sealed from inside. They placed a 2 point of welding, and I cannot understand really completely why they did, because now I will show you. Of course the model is already adjusting together, you know, in position, because if you just move something, the part fall apart. So as you can see here, the parts were welded to the rest of the body. I really don't understand, because inside there is also the detail of the trunk, which also includes the cover of the rear part of the trunk, so it's a complete part, and so I have no clue why they didn't let it be open like this. I always have the idea and the impression that maybe those diecasts are basic stuff made from Burago that can be used by other companies and be presented on the market under another type of firm, you know. The engine bay that I already stripped down was this one. Of course, it's just a mock-up of the model from above, you know, and there is not really that big of detail, you know. You just see the big bars for stability, you know, from the suspension, and under a kind of impressed model of the engine, which basically don't resemble anything. So this is really not a nice detail. In my opinion, was much nicer detail in the trunk of the model, you know. From this car, going to the version of the Racer, I think the only part that we need to save is basically the trunk, which I have still to clean. You know, I just cut the part, the big inch that they provide, and the roof, of course, and the rear light, because also the cutting of the rear lights, as you can see, that is the position of the rear light of the touring car, and this is the sharper position of the ordinary M4. So that have to be reshaped, as well as if you assemble temporarily the back of the trunk. Hold on a little. This is the back of the M4. You will see that squared air intake from the back of the car is a little bit different in the touring car, because it became smaller and they go in a narrower position down there. So all this area must be completely modified, you know, when you adapt this part on this model. This is exactly like they did for the real car, which they started to build up the Racer from an ordinary street car of the M3, and they made a prank, as I said in the beginning. It was the 1st of April of the last year of 2025, and then the prank have so much success that they decided to build up the model and to produce their own version of this one of Racer that was until now just racing at the Nürburgring. And it was also very interesting because they dedicated the back of the car with a writing dedicated to Alex Zanardi, that recently passed away and was a great BMW driver. So it was absolutely lovely that they dedicate that back of the car, that writing, to Alex, very big champion, you know. And of course also this part is not fitting perfectly. I try to spot everything here in camera, but you see something like this, so it's not exactly fitting. You have to do a much better positioning of the part, and if you see the proper picture, you also will notice that this fast unlocker is in another position, this probe is in another position, this is a little different. So I prefer to work basically on a part that is starting from a plastic kit, because it's much more easy to prepare, you know, despite they had this but not so nice detail before the extractor here, so probably I will cut it away just copying how the real car looks. And returning to the model, you know, for the front end, I think that the basic difference that you can find is that the M3 Touring Racer had some wings here in the upper part of the air intakes in this position, but it's something that is quite easy to add. Plus the front end was a little bit more with wings and so on also here, and they added that nice light in the front end here, featuring the aggressive light. I think it looked like a low intensity light for the kidneys of the front end, you know. What basically I did here was then to strip it down everything I could and take away all the parts. So this was a plastic roof which come apart if you simply drill the referring point under the roof, and then cut away this part, you know. Then remains a nice cabrio there, which I will not use. I mean, this is the only part that I really need for this type of conversion. I choose to make a cut on that position to try to save the line of the rear windshield, which in the Racer also feature another little different air intake on the side here, probably to take coolant to the brake systems, I think, you know. And of course have to be still cleaner from the inside, but I think that if we will go for a production of racing parts of this model, it is slightly better to work with little thicker parts. God, my allergy is killing me. I have a voice coming from the underground, I know. And the weather is fantastic, it's just me that is allergic to the grass, so perfect condition. And basically what we have to do here is this joint, you know, is this stuff here. As you can see, the proportion, I was lucky. They nearly fit perfectly to the body, because in this type of 2 BMW, they didn't change the angle, they didn't change significantly the angle of the windshield, which they did in previous series like the E46 and the E36, where the angle of the windshield was completely different from the touring version and the coupe cabrio version. You know, I own a cabrio. I know that it is a different, totally different part. They look similar, but they are absolutely not. And as you can see, it's basically in this position. This gives me also a good option on where to cut the under part of the plastic body, which will be much more easy than to cut the die cast here. And also to reshape the side door, because they made a fake second door here. And I can use the detail saved from the cutting of the original die-cast body to start down the line going down, and also this air intake have to be a little reshaped because it's slightly different on the touring car. So there is a lot of stuff to do, but I think when the main part will be in position, as you can see, it starts and it ends. Consider the millimeter coming up from this side, but basically is matching exactly what it is they made. Very, very nice reduction in scale for both the models. So this is basically the overall appeal of all the parts. You know, the decal already exists, as I said. Look for decal dock decal or slot fabric soon. Also, you know, Fola is working very hard on this type of model, but as I said, I don't think I will follow them for the body part, despite it will be easier because made in 3D and all the blah 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 about the 3D. But I think that it will be better to have a racing body kit for a static model to be converted directly on this model of the M4 GT3 2022 car. So that's it. This is the condition of the actual cutting, you know, and I hope you like this foolish idea to destroy a die-cast model. It was really sad, you know, because it was anyway a nice toy, you know, but when you see the details of the toy version, you know, and the interior and so on, you know, it's toy, we cannot say so much. We'll also save the rear part of the windshield, you know, which have featuring the vents on this side, on the two sides, but I see that there is similar vents already on the model of the M4 GT3, which can be cut and adapted, you know, there, that one on the rear deck. and the wing is similar, the mountings are different, but there is a lot of part that can be taken, and in general, overall parts, I think it's much better to have something like this that is a very nice model kit instead of scratch build completely or produce anyway a complete full detail main completely entire kit. I think is much better to have just the body that you can adapt in your own way directly to the M4 GT3. So that's it, guys. This is the conditions. I'm absolutely not in good condition right now for the allergy, and I hope to be better very soon. And that's it. That's it. Look, what kind of surgeon department is this? That's it, guys. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.